As part of my evil plan to get more eyes on my artwork, I decided to start filming myself drawing so that I can make some of those time-lapse drawing type videos with an overhead camera and stuff. In order to do that, however, I need to have a way of actually filming my artwork from overhead, and it needs to be fairly portable since I haven't really got a desk. I do most of my drawing on a cushion on my lap, and I'm always shifting around the house and drawing in different rooms. Anyway, this is what I came up with. It's a drawing board with a camera mount attached to it. The camera mount is bendy, so you can adjust it when you're moving your drawing board about, and the whole thing is portable, so you can use it on a desk or on your lap or wherever you want to use it. Except from in the Antarctic, of course, because drawing in that type of cold weather would be very uncomfortable, and you might get your paper wet. Oh yeah, and also I can't guarantee that this drawing board might not just turn to ash or whatever if you get too close to the sun, so you should exercise caution with that as well. I take no responsibility for you getting hurt or wounded or damaging your artwork from trying to draw in a weird place that no sane person would draw in. In this video, I'm going to show you how I made this thing, so you can make one too. Although probably not exactly the same, since I made this from old wood that I already had, and I'd advise you to adapt yours to work with old wood that you can get your hands on, rather than copying mine exactly. Anyway, here goes. To build a drawing board like this, you will need a bendy camera mount. These can be found on the internet for a reasonable price. A nut and a bolt, which are the right size for fitting into the bottom of the bendy camera mount. Make a note of how big the screw size is when you're buying your bendy camera mount to help you know which type of bolt to get. Some old bits of wood. Just use some that you've got lying around, if you do have any lying around. A drill, or some other way of making holes in the wood. A tape measure, or some other way of measuring things. If your grandma has head tattoos with centimetres or inches marked onto her scalp, then maybe you could shave her and use those. A pencil, or some other way of marking things, like slicing open your grandma's head and using the blood. A saw, or some other way of cutting wood. Maybe you could pull off one of your grandma's legs and sharpen the bone into a serrated blade. Some sandpaper, or some other way of smoothing out the wood. Maybe you could cut off your grandma's lower jaw and use that to scrape the wood smooth. A hammer, or some other way of bashing the nails in. Maybe you could bash them in with your grandma's head. Some nails, or some other way of putting the wood together. Maybe you could cut out your grandma's intestines and use those to tie the wood together. And a cutting bench. Or if you don't have one of those, you could just use a conventional table and ask your grandma to hold the wood still while you're cutting it. But if you do take that option, then for God's sake, make sure she's wearing safety goggles, because that sawdust might hurt if it gets in her eyes, and we're all about health and safety on this channel. Okay, so you've gathered together your bits and bobs, let's get on with the building. Step 1. Find your wood and carry it into the garden. Or your workshop if you're fancy enough to have one. Or if you don't have a garden, then just take it to wherever you're going to be working. This could be pretty much anywhere, but obviously I wouldn't recommend doing the woodwork in the back of a taxi or during a UN summit meeting. Please comment below if you can think of any other places where it would be inappropriate to do woodwork. Step 2. Decide how big your drawing board is going to be. This will depend on the size of the surfaces you intend to draw on. So work that out, then give yourself a little bit of extra space around the edge to help with getting a good camera angle. Remember though, that larger drawing boards will be heavier and less portable, so so factor that in when you're deciding on its size. Step 3. Measure and mark out the places where you're going to cut the wood. If you're using planks of wood like me, then cut them into shorter lengths and attach them side by side to make a larger surface area. Step 4. Cut the wood to the length that you need it. Here's some footage of me cutting wood. My hair is long and messy due to lockdown, and I've decided to keep growing my beard until nightclubs open up again, just for the sake of seeing what it would be like to be a wizard. Step 5. Sand the edges of the wood to make it smooth, because you don't want to be cutting yourself on it when you're drawing. And if you're wondering about my weird fashion choices, this outfit was chosen to stop my skin from being burnt by the sun, and it was designed for me by Jean-Paul Gaultier. Step 6. My design used 5 pieces of bracing. 3 to go on the top of the board to stop your drawing from sliding off when the board is on an angle, and 2 to go on the back to hold the drawing board together and make it strong and sturdy. Measure and cut those pieces. Step 7. Sand and smooth these pieces, making them smooth and curvy on one side but flat on the other, as these need to lay flat across the other bits of wood. Step 7.1. This step is optional depending on the type of wood you have, but because my wood was leftover floorboards, I decided to put wood glue into the slots and slot it together. Step 8. Nail 2 bits of bracing onto the underside of the drawing board to hold it all together and make sure it's strong and sturdy. I did this quickly after I'd glued it in order to hold the wood tightly together as the glue dried. Step 9. Nail 3 bits of bracing to the front of the board to make a frame that will stop your drawing from sliding off the board when it is tilted. Step 10. Drill a hole in the top corner of the wood that is big enough to fit the bolt through that will attach your camera mount. Step 11. Attach your camera mount to the drawing board using your bolt and tighten it with your nuts. I mean tighten it with your nut. Step 12. Now here's one of the main flaws with this design. Gravity can cause your camera arm to spin inside the hole when the drawing board is moved, so you'll need to find a way of stopping this. My solution was to wedge it still with 2 blocks of wood on top of each other. But this was an issue I didn't anticipate in the design stage, and my improvised solution works okay, but is something that you could potentially improve on if you're building your own. Leave your suggestions on better ways to fix this problem in the comment section below. Anyway, at this point you have a shiny new drawing board to use filming your drawings for YouTube. It does have a few flaws, however. The camera is filming your drawings upside down, so you have to rotate the image while editing to make it the right way up, and your camera is quite close to your drawing, so you do have to adjust it sometimes when you're moving around the page. Other than that though, I think it works pretty well. The first thing I used it for was filming my drawing for a comic that I'm drawing in oil pastel called Once a Wizard, Now a Pleb. This is a comic about 2 migrants from a shamanic tribal culture who move to a fictionalized version of ancient Rome and have to rely on selling hallucinogenic drugs on the street in order to get by. An issue of this comic should be available on my Etsy store by the end of the year, along with other comics that I'm working on, and a few pages of this comic are available to view on my website, GlennWilkinsonArt.com. Make sure you spell the name Glenn with 2 N's. GlennWilkinsonArt.com. Glenn with 2 N's, WilkinsonArt.com. There are also other comics to read on this site and information about some of my other projects. I found drawing on this drawing board to be a fairly comfortable way of drawing, and luckily it didn't seem to make it feel awkward as I had worried it might. The thing that I did find a bit of a headache, however, was having to constantly worry about emptying memory cards for the camera and the camera's battery life. Anyway, thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, you can do the usual things to help my channel, liking the video, commenting, and of course subscribing. At the time of writing this script, I have 88 subscribers, so obviously any new subscribers are helping me a monumental amount. To the people who are already subscribed, I'm going to be making more videos about drawing and art stuff in the near future, but that doesn't necessarily mean I won't be making more videos about Super 8 filmmaking again at a later date. But tell me what you think of this change in the comment section. I'd love to hear your views. Anyway, I hope everyone is doing well, and hopefully I'll see you all back here again for future videos. Bye.